Hi, I'm Commissioner Mike McKeon, and I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of the Public Works Pipeline. With me today, as usual, is our Public Works Director, Paul McElhaney. We're here to talk about a late summer update and sort of a fall update for folks. So, Paul, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we begin with that, though, I'd like to give a brief update on the Public Works Telethon that we had last month. And these letters came in on green paper for some reason, first one here is from a Lieutenant Colonel Bill Kilgore, U.S. military retired. And Colonel Kilgore writes, I love the smell of donations in the morning. It smells like victory. What were the results of your telethon, son?
Well, Mike, I don't know what your results were, but if you like the smell of donations in the morning, I could always suggest the pump stations or the refuse department. They're always beautiful in the morning.
Yeah, that's a lovely place. I think if you're a resident, you want to take a walk or something, maybe check that out in the morning. And the telethon results, we don't have them yet. We do think that it's possible some donations came in. I don't know if the show was saved long term or not, but I would call it at least marginally successful at this point, pending further update later on.
Okay, marginal. I'd like to know what that definition is, but
Right.
okay.
And we have another note here. This is from a George Bailey from Bedford Falls. He's actually the richest man in Bedford Falls, I think. Mr. Bailey writes, why wasn't Paul McElhaney included in any live portions of the telethon? Did you intentionally write him out of it?
Well, I can't speak to that. Kind of got locked in my office. I don't know if I kind of find it suspicious, but we'll leave it at that.
I heard it was the cleaning lady's first day there, and so she thought that it was a broom closet or something. She was just locking it for security purposes, and the screaming that she thought she heard in there, she thought it was a recording or something.
Yeah. I find it suspicious, but we'll let that pass.
But what was odd, and I do apologize to all the viewers for Commissioner Andy Gavrin's behavior, he was not to be included in that event, and I know he was able to infiltrate the show on several occasions, and I was really just embarrassed and ashamed that happened.
Well, rumor has it he has some specialized training and was able to get past your security. That's all I'm going to say.
And that's something that's been going around for a while, that he may have worked or not worked for an unnamed government organization for some time, where he acquired some specialized skills that would help him to circumvent levels of security and infiltrate said show multiple times.
Well, I don't know if it helped your ratings or brought them down. I can't speak to that.
Yeah, unfortunately, we may never know that. But so now the show that we're here today about, we're going to do some summer and fall stuff. So summer storms. We just had one in our August. What can you tell us about that?
It was extremely damaging to the township. It seems more like straight line winds. We have that reported app, and it drops pinpoints, and you can see that the storm kind of went through Penn Wind, through Wynwood, through Belmont Hills, Penn Valley, and the eastern part of Gladwin. A lot of tree damage with this storm. Crews were out the night of the storm well into the AM hours to get Lancaster Avenue open, Remington Road, large arteries, and then the next 2 days really opening up a lot of the roadways. We were kind of hampered as we waited for PECO to get power turned off because staff's not allowed to touch trees and all with live wires. We worked hand in hand with PECO to get things shut down so we could get roads opened. Staff then and still are going around the township and cleaning up right-of-way tree debris because the volume was just immense. It was quite a storm that went through.
And then one thing you mentioned about the fallen lines, power lines, those things are very dangerous. So our message to residents: stay away. Down utility lines, absolutely report them and stay away.
Well, even stay away from, say, a tree's on it, because the tree, has the capillary action of the water. That's gets up to the leaves. It draws water. Well, water is a great transmitter of electricity. If that tree is sitting on a power line, that tree can then become electrified. So stay away from them. Let the professionals come in. Take no chances for your own safety.
And a down utility line, tree line, you should call PECO if you're
Call
resident.
PECO or 911. If you call 911 because sometimes you get a wait on the PICO line. You call 911. What they'll do is they go directly to the PICO switchboard, and it goes on the service call for them also. So you take both routes and go from there.
And now the township's role when there's storm cleanup, the township would be involved in public roads, right, and also the right-of-ways?
When it comes to the storms, we have the parks, those type of things, but the roadways, whether it's public or private, we have a responsibility because of emergency services, especially, we open the roadway. That way emergency services could get into anybody. So if an individual's on a private road and a tree comes down, we clear it so that there's passage. We don't then clear the rest of the tree. With the streets, the public streets, we will open up the roadway, then we'll come back if it's a right-of-way tree. If it is a township tree, we will then come back and remove all of it. If it is a private tree, the debris and tree gets pushed to both sides or whatever side safest to put it on, and it is left, and then it becomes the responsibility of the homeowner or homeowners, wherever the tree ends up, to clean that up.
So if a tree falls down and it ends up the debris on 4 different properties, then each of those 4 property owners is responsible for removing the tree debris on their property.
Correct. That's what state law is. Even if you and I were neighbors, my backyard tree fell into your backyard. Once that tree is in your backyard, it is yours. Good neighbor, I should really pay to have it cleaned up, but that's what state law says. So.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think these are the kind of things that people oftentimes don't find out until the tree comes down, and then they have to look into it and research it.
Yeah, and they're in a situation where it's an emergency. They're heightened emotional state, and so we find a lot of times what we're doing is we're educating people also as we're trying to do our jobs. So.
And I think with this last storm, it was hit the region so hard. Some of the regional contractors were overwhelmed. So at that point, township staff, right, Public Works, Parks and Rec stepped in and kind of went overtime.
Yeah, we work with the utilities, but with this storm, down in Delaware County really had a lot of damage, and a lot of the resources were directed down there because the damage was more significant than what we had. So we had cleared what we could. Staff had, gotten as many roads open as they could, not cleaned up, but opened and so forth. So then we worked with a regional director. He and I literally identified all the areas, and he was bringing the crews in to at least get the power shut off so we could get the roads open. Because we had a private road in Penn Valley that residents were trapped in. Their contractor was too busy. We got the power turned off. We got it opened up for those residents. We forged through. I mean, the extent of that storm that Monday night, you could not get out of the Belmont Hills, Penn Valley area at all. Everything was completely blocked. By 8:30, 9 o'clock, we at least had 2 roads open, but we had Mary Wooders Ford and Woodbine, 2 major roadways that we couldn't get open till the next day because we had to wait for PICO.
Yeah, and I got text messages from residents who were saying basically, help, I'm trapped at Belmont Hills, and I'm like, I know, help me, I've got trees falling down our property and everything else is, it was a very overwhelming storm.
we had staff on Lancaster Avenue. There was a tanker truck and another large tractor trailer stock, 4 lanes of road blocked there in 2 places. So we were doing our best to get everything open as quickly as we could, especially like Lancaster to get to Lankenau Hospital. We have
the emergency.
We have our priorities. I mean, I received some complaints that certain roads weren't open and this and that. Understand, we have to open the roads that are priority roads that get you to hospitals, to firehouses, those type of things, carry large volumes of traffic. And we do our best to do so. I had some complaints, Director of Public Works lives here and we weren't cleaned up first. I have an obligation to follow, emergency management protocols, and, my family was without power. My family was also trapped. But I have to follow protocols, can't show favoritism.
Yeah, I don't think there's any favoritism, and that's like it's you sit there as the power's out in your own house, and you're looking at everything around there. There's like, it's just there's a process, and it's basically whatever the streets that are most important, if it's utilitarian or whatever you call it, and that's how it works.
Correct. And then we're also dictated by the utilities when the power is going to be off so that we can work safely.
So speaking of Belmont Hills and utilities, there was a lot of summer work in Lower Merion, a lot of in Belmont Hills, but also in other places in Lower Merion. What was the background of that work?
Well, the Belmont Hills, goes back several years. We had we've had both Pico and Aqua working within Belmont Hills. New water mains being run throughout and new gas mains being run throughout. As you know, we were to pave the majority of the Belmont Hills, Penn Valley this year because of that work, but we weren't able to do so because the utilities aren't able to complete. Pico ran the mains. They've started to gas up the new mains and retire the old mains, but they also have to switch everybody over. That is what they're finishing. Hopefully, they'll be starting the trench restorations, and then next year will be the full curb-to-curb paving restorations that will occur.
And that could include even Ashland Avenue, right?
Yes, which
high-profile road.
High-profile road has utility cuts both sides of the road, but all roads will be paved next year. But they have to do trench restoration, and that'll get us a nice drivable surface to get us through till next year's paving.
Yeah. Well, Paul, thank you very much for the explanation of that summer work. We're going to take our first break now. Please stick around. We'll be back with more Public Works in a little bit. Hi, welcome back to the Public Works Pipeline. I'm Commissioner Mike McKeon here with our Public Works Director, Paul McElhaney, and we're talking a little Public Works stuff. So we were just talking about summer road work, and now there's also fall road work too, right?
There's the township fall work. This is where we take an opportunity to get caught up on the things that weren't associated with, like the paving program, fixing inlets, stormwater pipes, those type of things that had to be done before certain roads were paved and all. This is where we get into fixing culverts, fixing walls, the keeping track of the house, for lack of a better term, all the things that have to be done during warmer weather that had to wait until paving was done. Other fall work, one of the biggest projects you'll see is Conshohocken State Road. If you remember last year, Conshohocken State Road had numerous detours from Conshohocken itself up through the Gladwin to the bottom of the hill on Conshohocken State Road where it intersects Mill Creek Road. And that was a combination of both Pico and Aqua doing new gas main and new water main. Now Aqua's come back and they're continuing to run that main from the bottom of the hill at Mill Creek there, and it's going to run all the way down through Conshohocken State Road down to Ballackinwood. That's to bring in all the new water to the township. With that, there will be closures and a detour on Conshohocken Road daily from 9 to 3. It'll vary where it is. My advice is when you're going through Gladwin, go down Old Gulf. Make the right on Old Gulf, follow the detour. That'll take you completely around the work that is scheduled. That way it's not hit or miss. This is open, that's open. But that's going to go through pretty much till the end of the year. And then when that is complete, that section of roadway will be added into the township's paving program for next year, because that stretch of Conshohocken State Road between Hollow and Mill Creek's really been in bad shape. Staff went out 2 years ago and they skimmed it just to make it passable because we knew this project was coming, but we'll be doing that. Hopefully this fall, the other Aqua program and Pico programs that are spread throughout the township, they'll be completed, but there are other ones that are on tap. As I mentioned to you in one of our previous programs, we're probably looking at another 4 or 5 years of this ongoing infrastructure improvement by the utilities Unfortunately, their infrastructure is up to 100 years old, and they are replacing it. So we are, I use it when speaking to people, we're the generation that has to kind of suffer through it, but then we know that we have better service, dependable service, and all the demands of those that want gas and electric can be met.
That's why I think, so if you're stuck in traffic around Conshohocken State Road and the steam's coming out of your ears, maybe try to take a little solace knowing that this is sort of for the greater good. The water connection is going to be improved. People will be able to have water in their house now. So
yeah, the demands for the water will be be able to be met, and trust in when we feel the pain, we feel the phone calls, we. It's not us doing the work, but we have to explain it.
Right, and it's not the utility either. It's usually the contractor for the utility doing the work.
The work, but they represent the utility. It's for the greater good. As you know, where my home is located, I'm a corner property. Both utilities have dug in front.
Yeah, you're like ground zero for utility work.
Yeah,
right?
I'm ground zero for utility work. They've left equipment on the street next to my home, which is allowed. I've suffered all the the slings and arrows that others have.
When there's a virus out there, they'll say the first person has it is patient zero. I kind of think of you as like resident zero. Yeah.
And the township manager has also had it in front of his home. The township secretary. We understand it, but also understand it is for the greater good.
I think that's something a lot of people don't know or think about is so many township employees actually live in the township and deal with that day to day, whether they're in Penn Wynne or Belmont Hills or wherever.
Yep.
But you talk about too the greater good of a lot of this. There was a factory that exploded, a chocolate factory in Reading. I think 7 people were killed, and that was I believe it was like a degraded gas line over time that caused that. So it in a lot of ways it can be a matter of life and death to get those repairs done.
Yeah, and the section of gas line that ran through Gladwin. That was replaced last year. They had numerous calls of gas odor and so forth, and it was time for that main to be replaced. So, PECO being the responsible utility, put forward that project. So.
And one of the things Public Works also does is get involved with traffic calming and and actually erecting the improvements and the safety devices that go out there. I think Public Works is removed from everything for the most part before that process. So it's, but if you can explain how that process works and what Public Works' role is.
When an item comes in for traffic calming, essentially, the commissioner or a resident, it's then brought forward. It goes through a process where traffic safety and the township engineer look at the roadway conditions. There's a policy. They score it to see if it meets the policy.
And traffic safety units, 3 police officers,
right, that are highly trained in this. Along with the township
it's
engineer.
2 and Charlie Farrell. But
yes, exactly. But you also have the township engineers that do the traffic. That's what they work on, all the intersections. They review it. Does it meet the scoring and all that? We're involved somewhat in that process in that if they're going to suggest, whether it be a speed pillow or a rumble strip or something, they ask me what's the current cost for that, whether it's staff doing it or a contractor. What's the market right now? Then what happens is that recommendation will then go to the Board of Commissioners. You'll approve it. Then I get a design, and whether I'm going to do it in-house or if I'm going to subcontract it out and put it out to bid, then it's my job to make sure from that point it gets installed. We go to do those processes, and a lot of times I get the phone call, why did you do this, why did you do that? And as I tell the residents, I'm the sticks and bricks guy. I'm the guy that gets told, make this happen. So, but we will then, refer those individuals to the Traffic Safety Division or the Township Engineer, who can then discuss why those decisions were made and how the project scored and those type of things.
Yeah, and sticks and bricks is kind of the safe space for this process because River Road got speed bumps, and I think they were very popular among the neighbors. Not so popular for the average drivers coming through there. But I had an application on Ashland Avenue and Belmont Hills, and then also there were concerns in the traffic circle in College Park by East Dartmouth and Vassar, and residents come out complaining, and they had, I think, pretty extreme and strong beliefs about it. And once we began that process, that sort of ferreted out some other residents who felt completely differently about it.
Well, you'll get the residents that feel completely different about it, but you'll also get residents that were supportive until the design comes out and they find out, well, that rumble strip may need to go near my home, or that speed cushion, so then the concerns of noise or different things. So it can get a little bit controversial or a little bit tense at times when you're dealing with the residents and trying to come to a resolve, but understanding that certain items work in conjunction with each other and have to be can't be more than certain distances apart, or they become ineffective, and that doesn't always work for some residents.
Yeah, I mean, it can be really difficult because you could have a situation where there's 20 residents on the street, they all want a rumble strip, but none of the 20 want the rumble strip in front of their home. Fortunately, I think we've been able to find somebody who would accept it, but that's a
right. But then, like I
process.
said, if they get too far apart, they're ineffective. So it can lead to some controversial.
We had one in Tompkin Road, I believe, in Penn Wyn, where that application was brought forward, was very well supported, and then within a couple weeks there was unbelievable animus toward it, and the ward commissioner, I think, ended up withdrawing.
Well,
the application.
that still exists. Traffic safety is working with the ward commissioner and the residents to try to come to a resolve. So I still have it in my possible to-do folder. So.
But in terms of sticks and bricks, there is some work on North Latches Lane, right? That actually has been brought to.
Yeah, that has been given to us. That's been a contract awarded. We are putting in speed pillows. We were out the day after the storm, doing storm cleanup. Had to take a moment, meet with traffic safety, the township engineer, to make sure that our layout was proper. We also had the contractor with us so that we could get all of it laid out, and all of us sign off on this is where they're going, this is what we're doing. So that should be underway shortly.
Yeah, that's great to see that one moving along. And then Rose Glen, how would you describe that application? Is that kind of up in the air a little bit?
That is on hold at the moment. Some of the proposed design has been installed. There's been some opposition to some of the other parts of the design. Currently, the ward commissioner, the township engineer, traffic safety, we're trying to just work out what is the finished product going to be.
All right, and we only have about a minute left here, so I was going to ask you a lot of questions about the CIP, the Capital Improvement Plan. But the one question I think I have time to ask is, when we get these binders, why does it say Capital Improvement Program if it's really the Capital Improvement Plan?
Because it's the program. It's what we're going to be doing. It's only valid for 1 year. It gives us an idea of what the next 5 years are going to be. So it's not a complete plan because it's fluid. It can change. And you as the Board of Commissioners only approve 1 year of funding. And so it's a plan, it's a program, but and it's always been listed as the program. It predates me.
To residents who don't know, that works in conjunction with our budget. So at the end of the year, we do a capital improvement plan for larger capital projects, and then also work out a budget, and then we revisit the CIP every year.
Yeah.
So,
and this is my bricks and sticks book.
Yeah. All right, well, that's all the time we have for today. Paul, thank you very much for coming out, and everyone, if you sat through the whole show, thank you very much.